Okay, so this is going to be separation of a mixture lab. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a mixture of salt, sand, and iodine, and we're going to separate each component by different methods, okay? So the first step says weigh a clean, dry 200 milliliter beaker without a spout, okay? So this will work. And it has a mass of 138.82 grams. The next step says obtain a mixture of sodium chloride, salt, and iodine from your teacher. Weigh in between 5 and 6 grams of the sample out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tar the balance. And I'm going to put in my mixture, and I need to get about 5 or 6 grams of it. Okay. Okay. So I have 5.98 grams. Okay. So once I weigh that out, I'm going to record the mass, the beaker, and the sample together. So I'm just going to put this inside the beaker. So I'm going to retar it. Okay, and then I'm going to put my sample inside, and that's what we should get. Okay, it says calculate the mass of the sample by subtracting the mass of the empty beaker from the mass of the sample and the beaker. Well, we already had that, so you can use either one of those. The 5.98 or this minus the mass of the original beaker. Okay, now what I'm going to do next from here is I'm going to take a watch glass and I'm going to put it on top of this. Okay, so the next portion of the lab says that we are going to attach a ring stand, place wire gauze on it, and we're going to light our Bunsen burner. Now, what we do is we put some cubes of ice on top of the watch glass. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to cause the iodine to sublimate. Okay, so it's important that as this process goes on, that as the ice melts, we take a little pipette and we're going to suck off the water that melts. Okay. Okay, so if we zoom in a little more, that you see this purple gas forming. Okay, that's the iodine sublimating. Okay, and let's see. This is actually a pretty cool lab to see in person. So this process continues until you don't see any more purple going on. Okay. Looks like purple rain going on. And so we'll come back to this in just a second once we go on to the next step and the iodine is fully sublimated. The iodine is still sublimating, so we're going to continue this process until it stops being a purple color, and we're going to make sure that we're going to get rid of the melted ice, the water, and the watch glass. As you can see, it's starting to have less and less of a purple tint to it, so we're getting closer and closer to the end of the sublimation process. Okay, so we've pretty much ended the sublimation process. You can tell that there's not really any purple gas coming up anymore. So from here, we're going to shut off the gas, and we are going to measure the mass of the remaining mixture. Now, I think this is one of the coolest part of the labs is you get to see what the iodine looks like after it's sublimated. You get some gray crystals. And the next step will be to measure the mass of our remaining product. So what we should have left is going to be the sand and the sodium chloride salt. Okay, so we're going to record this mass 144.56 grams. So to get the mass of the sodium chloride plus sand mixture, we're going to take number 4 and we're going to subtract out number 2. To get the mass of the iodine, we're going to subtract number 3 minus number 5. Okay, so the next part of the experiment says we're going to take the sodium chloride and the salt mixture and we're going to transfer it to a clean, cool beaker like that. Okay. And then from there, it says we're going to add about 50 milliliters of water. Okay, so I have my 50 milliliters of water measured out. I'm going to add it to the mixture, and what's going to happen is the sodium chloride salt is going to dissolve in the water. Okay, so I'm going to kind of swish it around a little bit, stir it up. And so if we want to stir it up to increase the dissolving process. Okay. Okay, the next portion of this is going to be, it says weigh a clean 250 milliliter beaker. Okay, so we're going to weigh another one. You need to make sure you write this one down. Okay, so this one has a mass of 133.15. So the next portion of the lab is 133.16. We'll go with that. So the next portion of the lab will be filtration like we did in the separations lab. Okay, so we're going to start the gravimetric filtration, and we've put our filter paper in the funnel, and this is the newly weighed beaker that we just weighed on the scale. Now what's going to happen is we're going to filter out the salt from the sand. Okay, so the salt is dissolved in the water, should pass through the filter paper completely. Now we need to make sure that we don't let any of the liquid get out of the funnel. Okay, so pretty much most of the sand stayed in here. Okay, if you want to shake it out some more and stir it in there, that's fine with me. The sand doesn't like to come out. A little bit. I got more sand in the filter paper, and we're just going to let this continue to filter down here. Once again, this is going to be the salt dissolved in water, the sodium chloride dissolved in water. Guys, yeah. So it looks like our salt water has drained from the filter, so your residue is going to be your sand left in here, and your salt water is going to be down there. Now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go start this and we're going to boil off the water. Once we boil off the water, we'll just have salt left in the beaker. So I'm going to light the Bunsen burner. And this process usually takes about 15 minutes or so, depending on the amount of water. Okay, so we want to make sure we boil it, but we don't want it to splatter. Okay, so we don't want to boil off all the water and then it just starts splattering salt everywhere. So we'll come back once the water is boiled off. The water and the salt are beginning to boil. We're going to keep this process going on for a few more minutes. So this is what our final product of the sodium chloride salt looks like after we've driven all the water off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it, we're going to find the mass of it, Okay, so our mass of the sodium chloride is going to be, and the beaker is going to be 136.10. So this is the beaker we measured the mass of the second time, okay? So all we're going to do is let it cool off and wash it out, and we'll go do our calculations for the rest of your lab. Thanks. To find the mass of the sodium chloride, we're going to take the mass of the sodium chloride in the beaker minus the mass of the dry beaker used for the filtrate. To find the mass of the sand, we're going to take the mass of the mixture weighed out in number 3 minus the mass of the iodine minus the mass of the sodium chloride. To find the mass percent of the sodium chloride in the original mixture, we're going to do number 9, the mass of the sodium chloride, divided by the mass of the total mixture, number 3, and we're going to multiply it by 100. To find the percent iodine in the original mixture, we're going to take the mass of the iodine, number 6, and divide it by number 3, the total mass of the mixture, times 100. To find the mass percent of the sand in the original mixture, we're going to take the mass of the sand, number 10, and divide it by the mass of the mixture, number 3, and multiply it by 100. All of your percentages for number 14, number 11 plus number 12 plus number 13 should add up to be 100%.